90% of Africans were sold by African chieftains who conquered them in tribes, sold European slavers and to Arab slavers. And speaking of Arab slavers, the Arab slave trade took place centuries before the European slave trade did and lasted longer, and the death rate was much, much higher. So as we talk about who pays who, this is going to be one of the greatest generational transfers of wealth back and forth, because virtually every people on the face of the earth was involved in slavery. Europeans enslaved Europeans, Africans enslaved Africans, as mentioned. Native Americans even enslaved Native Americans, Asians enslaved Asians. In fact, white Muslim slavers took more whites out of the Mediterranean than European slavers took blacks out of Africa to North America. So figuring out who owes what is going to be a hell of an achievement. Now,
and then I had a few concluding remarks.
It's been mentioned a couple of times that reparations are owed to blacks for 400 years of slavery. Well, America was founded in 1787 and slavery ended in 1865. So that's substantially less than 400 years. It's also been mentioned that America has yet to atone for slavery. Well, remember that Lyndon Johnson launched the so-called War on Poverty in 1965. He specifically talked about the need to redress past grievances for blacks. Since then, we've spent over $22 trillion in payments to fight the so-called War on Poverty. Also,
a few more things I didn't get a chance to say. Does Obama, whose father is from Kenya, an area of active slave trading back in the day, and his mom's family owned slaves, does Obama get a check or does he cut a check? What about Kamala Harris? Her father admitted that his family owned slaves. Her mother is from India. Does Kamala Harris cut a check or does she get a check? Here's another problem. Only about 5% of white people living today in America have any sort of generational connection to slavery. And I have another question. Why should anybody but Democrats pay anything? After all but a handful of slave owners were Democrats. 1860 rather, it's estimated that there were about 350,000 slave owners owning 4 million blacks. Of all of those slave owners, Dinesh D'Souza estimates that maybe 8 of them might have been Republicans. So why should anybody but Democrats, more specifically white Democrats, pay a dime? I am not a victim. The whole idea of reparations is insulting. As I said at the very beginning of the hearing, reparations could properly be described as the extraction of money from people who were never slave owners to be given to people who were never slaves. The whole thing is absolutely ridiculous.